joining us is Heather Weisbeck from Red Door Pediatric Therapy here in Bismarck.
And today we're talking about kids who are picky eaters. Good morning.
Yes, thank you.
Oh, it's a thing that parents are all too familiar with. I have 3 kids. I think every one of them was picky at some point.
Yeah, it's very common with a lot of kids.
So what's the first step for parents? You know, do you start out when they're, like I know some parents who they can feed their kids anything, sardines to broccoli, anything, and they'll eat it. My kids would just turn their nose up at everything for a while.
Right. Well, a lot of kids, it's either sensory or like a behavior why they are picky eaters. So today I'm kind of going to focus on more the sensory aspect.
Okay.
So first off, we like to have kids be able to eat 10 foods from each food group. So that's kind of deciding fact if they are picky eaters or, yeah, there's a couple foods here and there we're not going to like. So, you know, if they have 10 vegetables or 10 fruits and so on. With that, if you only have like 2 vegetables, let's say peas and corn, and eventually they eat those all the time, they're going to get, it's called food jag. So basically, eventually they're going to get sick of those and then they're not going to eat any vegetables ever. So we like to have a variety of vegetables or a variety of fruits in order to have that nutritional intake all the time.
I'm not sure I like 10 fruits.
Yeah,
right?
I was trying to think too as you were saying that about bananas and apples. Is there a way to define it? Is that kind of what you said, that it needs to be the 10? So how do you take the step to get beyond that?
So then we kind of see where they're at with the picky eating, and then so a lot of kids with the sensory aspect, when we take a bite of a piece of food, it includes all of our senses. You know, so we have to be able to see this food. We are smelling it, we're tasting it, even hearing, you know, if it's a crunchy food or if we're hearing other sounds around us, and then touching it. So especially if kids already have sensory difficulties, it's really gonna be difficult to take just a bite of a piece of food. So then with that portion of the sensory aspect, we have these 6 main steps that we kind of like to go through. So basically the first step is to tolerate having the food around us, just like on our plate in front of us or on our parents' plate. Not even touching it yet, but just tolerating it by us.
Tolerate. That's an interesting word.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then the next step would be interact with it. Basically interacting with like a fork or a spoon, so not touching it yet, but just interacting with different tools, or like a game, getting different toys and touching it with those toys. So before you actually touch. And then the next step is smelling, which basically just being able to smell it, so bringing it up with the plate to smell it or on your fork. And then the next step is touch, so finally to be able to touch it. So you can either touch it, you know, poke it with your finger, you can play games, you can like drive it up your arm. There's a lot of different ways. You have to be creative with kids, of course. You know, poking it on your cheek or your nose, your face. So
Getting it close.
Yep, just kind of working towards your mouth. And then the next step would be taste. So it's not just, you know, putting it in your mouth, but kissing it, just being able to kiss it, or doing a lizard lick. Or doing a rocket, we like to call, is basically putting it in your mouth and spitting it back out. So, you know, spitting it back onto the plate or into a garbage to make it like a fun game. Kids, when they know they're able to spit out of food and have that ability,
it's not so
the
threatening.
more likely they're going to be able to put it in their food, because they're not as scared. They're like, okay, if I'm putting this in, I'm not going to be able to get it out, so they don't even want to put it in their mouth. So teaching that, even the spitting out, a lot of parents are like, I don't want to teach my kids to spit food, but really, it's really helping all their senses and even their motor aspect.
Well, this is such a big topic, and unfortunately we're out of time, but if people want to know more about it, how do they get in touch with you?
Yeah, we're at Red Door Pediatric Therapy. We're located in North 19th Street, and also we have a clinic in Minot, so you can call us there.
There's a phone number for both locations. Thanks so much, Heather.
Thank you.
We'll wrap things up when we come back.